The last thing I remember is I was manning my weapon, kind of scanning the left side of the Humvee, which I think was to the west, and it was lights out.
I remember I was actually looking at it when it exploded.
I remember feeling a lot of pain and then kind of hearing screams around me.
I believe the doctors in Baghdad and the cash unit were they didn't believe I was gonna survive.
So I thought it was clear. Stepped back about 10 feet. One guy gets all the way up the stairs, the second guy got like halfway and just boom.
Their lives are slowly returning to that comfortable, familiar place we all enjoy. The cycle of home, work, loved ones, plans and dreams for a better tomorrow. But these AETC wounded warriors carry with them the physical, mental, and emotional scars from a yesterday few of us have had to bear. Combat Controller Tech Sergeant Mark Esposito was on a combat reconnaissance patrol with an Army Special Operations team in Afghanistan when an IED exploded, resulting in multiple injuries and crushing both his legs below the knees.
It was an eye-opener. When I first woke up, it was, I asked two questions. I asked, is everybody else okay, and when can I go back? I looked down at my legs and went, that's it. I'm never gonna jump Halo again.
Staff Sergeant Scott Lilly was serving with security forces in Afghanistan when a roadside bomb sent shrapnel into his brain.
From what I heard, I stayed up on the gun for about 20-30 seconds. Now, if they pulled me into the Humvee or if I fell in, I'm not too sure.
Luckily, fellow Defender Tech Sergeant Jason Scott was with him that day.
My first vision of Scott, he was completely lifeless. Everybody was yelling that we had to get him to the hospital, and we just took him to the hospital. And one of the doctors made a comment that had we been a minute or two later, that he would have died.
Tech Sergeant Scott was no stranger to improvised explosive devices. Just 4 months prior, he had had his own encounter with a roadside bomb.
There was a pile of trash, and all of a sudden, it exploded.
He called me while I was at work at the 433rd. I was working by myself. He called me and told me that he was blown up. The phones were ringing, I had airplanes in the sky, I had people at the door, and I couldn't even talk to him and focus on what was going on because there was so much going on at work.
Although Staff Sergeant Brent Olson, a dog handler with the 42nd Security Forces Squadron at Maxwell, had his own injuries to contend with, his first concern was the welfare of his partner.
That's what brought me back in, and I did like a 4-point check real quick. He checked the back of him and he checked all his legs. He had a piece of metal in his snout.
The first time he told me is when they brought Black to the hospital to see him, and he got a little emotional.
OSI agent Captain Therese Frentz thought her and her companions were relatively safe at a cafe in the Baghdad Green Zone, but an encounter with a suicide bomber forever changed her life.
I had a concussion, and I had shrapnel go inside of my abdomen and lacerate my kidney and my liver. But the worst would be the burns, because I was burned on 30% of my body. And so I had to do a lot of rehabilitation to get my range of motion back. And I had a lot of surgeries, and so then I'd get up and start standing, maybe walking a little bit, and then I'd have another surgery, and then it was like I had to do that whole process over again. So at least 3 times I had to get myself walking again. of the problems with being a female hurt was that I'd hear the other guys say, oh, I met this girl, the other ones that were hurt and burned, and the girls would be like, oh, your scars are sexy, and that doesn't happen for a guy looking at a girl. It's not sexy to have war wounds. And so I went to a local gym, and they raise a lot of money for the Wounded Warrior Foundation. So being in San Antonio, I wasn't the only Wounded Warrior that worked out at the gym, and I said I was going to participate, and I made a goal for myself that because I had never ever shown my scars in public, I would wear just a sports bra and show my scars for the first time in public.
She is a very strong individual. She does an amazing job of just kind of working her way through issues.
It was pretty difficult when I had to take my shirt off and show everybody, but it was a great therapy, just working out, making yourself feel better just because you're working out, and realizing that you're doing things that people who've never been hurt aren't pushing themselves to do.
Physical therapists and the doctors, they told me that I would pretty much not have full use of my right arm, but I wasn't buying that. No, I got a lot of life to live, so I decided that that wasn't good enough for me and that I was going to get full use out of this arm.
Those medical expectations are given to you for reasons, but don't accept them. Never stop trying, never give in, never stop being resilient in your recovery, because I'm a fully qualified combat controller. I could dive, I could jump, I can run, I can ruck. And in many cases better than I was able to do before. And I have a lot of people to thank for that.
I've been to a training squadron and talked to several young airmen who are going through medical problems. A lot of them cry, get teary-eyed. But my thing to them is stay positive, keep your head high, keep a smile on your face, and don't get down on yourself. If you get down on yourself, you'll never make it.
I'm down in Florida, and I'm at an institution called the Andrews Institute, and we have a facility in there called Athletes Performance, and what they had just started doing was bringing wounded special operations guys down there, giving them the same training that they give the professional athletes. And Mark was one of the first guys that ever came down through our program, and he kind of stood out a little bit from all the others because when we tested him, his values were higher than anything I had ever seen before. Just how long can you hold a plank? I mean, we're sitting there. We're almost bored we're sitting there so long, just counting down the seconds, 5 minutes, 6 minutes. And then we get him to do a VO2 max test, which is a great measure of your cardiorespiratory fitness. And he gets on there, and I'm putting the mask on him and everything, and I had just met him, and he goes, oh, I hope the treadmill goes fast enough, and he tells me that I rolled my eyes when he said that. And then he starts going, and he just keeps going, and we're making the incline go up, we're making the treadmill go faster, and all of a sudden I'm seeing numbers that I've never seen before, ever testing anyone, and I'm hoping he gets past Lance Armstrong's level here, and he got pretty close.
Well, I'm not missing a leg, I'm not missing an arm. I got all 10 fingers. Mine's a traumatic brain injury, and it's a penetrating traumatic brain injury, but it's hard to tell that I've been wounded. I wouldn't say I'm the exception, but I've come a long ways, and I'm happy.
You know, when I talk to Mark about it versus, you know, if you're talking to an athlete about their injury and you want to get them back on the field just as badly as you want to get Mark back to doing what he's doing, but it's definitely for a completely different cause. One really tugging on the heartstrings, potentially a little bit more than the other.
It's a different meaning to me now to see what service before self is like. Yeah.
There's a sense of something more here, like you're doing it for a purpose, for a greater good.
This is what we're doing it for. It's like someone has to serve the country, why not me?
It's just awesome to be an American.
I think I'd go back to the word that you had used before with sacrifice.
One of the neighboring ranchers, they had an event on their property for, it was like for combat wounded Marines. She was definitely the oddball. Not only was she the only girl, she was also the only airman. So, and it was real funny. One of them, he was sitting there. He's like, yeah, we always pick on the Air Force and laugh at them and stuff. But man, let me tell you, when they come over and start dropping bombs and stuff, that's the best feeling on the face of the earth.
It's not just the Air Force. I mean, it's just America, the military. I love where I live. I don't know. I love what I do. I'd go back.
I always think about when you got injured was how you said that the doctor said that they didn't know if you would have recovered or recovered as well if you hadn't been in the shape that you were in. And just, I mean, you want to go quotations, my favorite quotations from Bobby Knight when he said, "It isn't the will to win that's important, everyone has the will to win. What's important is the will to prepare to win." And just being at the absolute highest level that you can possibly be at is one of the best preparations you can make for recovery. I'm the expert. Doctor's orders.
These 5 airmen of the Air Education and Training Command are but a few of the nearly 500 Air Force men and women who've returned from the conflicts of the past decade as wounded warriors, trudged long roads to healing, and with support from comrades, friends, and family, persevere with courage and resilience through each new day. This is why we call them heroes.